Rahui Katani.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. I'm pleased to speak to this bill as a member of the Local Government and Environment Committee on behalf of the Māori Party. When I stood to speak to this bill at its first reading on 16 June last year, I ended with the statement that in the interests of the iwi and mana whenua, we support this bill to bring their stories to the fore. And so it was with pleasure that I read the submission from Waikato Tainui Te Kauhanganui Incorporated, which made the connection explicit between Parana Park and the Waikato Tainui settlements. I believe that some of the statements made in that submission form an important part of the record around this bill, and in that they place the understanding around Parana Park firmly in the context of its location abounding the Waikato River and the Gibbon Stream as a riverbank. And I want to bring us back to the vision that Waikato Tainui have for the Waikato River. Tōku awa koe ora, mea ona pīkona, he kura tangihia o te mata muri, which means the river of life, each curve more beautiful than the last. I think about the more recent history associated with the land around Parana Park. The land was originally intended to be a children's convalescent home and playground, but in 1958 legislation was passed to enable the council to administer and manage Parana Park more effectively. The trusts of the last will and testament of George Park required that the house situated within Parana Park be used for a children's convalescent home for patients from Waikato Hospital, and that the remainder of the land be used for a children's playground. But the Hamilton City Parana Park Empowering Act of 1958 changed all of that. Half a century later, and the House is again considering legislation, this time to vest Parana Park in the Council as a recreation reserve. And I would presume that in this record, the Mayor and Councillors are in themselves fulfilling the vision for the Waikato River of trying to make each curve more beautiful than the last. As the submission from Waikato Tainui points out, the world is not static, but continues to evolve over time, and they recognise the actions of Council being necessary to free them from the existing restrictions in their administration of the land. But they point out also an interesting point, that there is a moral obligation on the Council to shape their administration towards the original intentions of the gift bequeathed by Mr George Parr in 1929, and that is for Parana Park to be centred around children. Waikato Tainui suggested in doing so, the Council would also in turn be supporting the Waikato River settlement purpose to restore and protect the health and well-being of the Waikato River and all it embraces for generations to come. The Māori Party strongly supports the recommendations from Waikato Tainui and agree with them that there is a moral obligation on the Council to administer Parana Park for the benefit of children in line with the wishes of George Parr. We noted also the submission from Laura Callaway, which supported the legislation being modernised, as long as it reflected George Parr's desire that it be focused on the children. She spoke with the authority of someone who is both a Hamilton resident and a former user as a child of Parana Park, and whose submission included a range of photographs showing children at play. The focus on children was also referred to in the submission from Gerard Kelly from the Waikato Tree Trust. I remind the House that there were only 5 submissions received on this bill. When the majority of them refer to children, then I would suggest that sends a very strong message to the Council about the preference of the community for how this park is to be used. The Māori Party believes that providing space for our tamariki and mokopuna to enjoy the great outdoors, to flourish in the beauty of Papatuanuku, to appreciate the awesome wonder of the Waikato Rawa is indeed worthy of our support, and to this end we do support this, the second reading of the Hamilton City Council Parana Park Land Vesting Bill.